Red-White Lockout here in Modern. We're going to do something just a bit different for this league, so if you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and give us a comment. Let us know to do some of these in the future. We're going to call it some sort of Fast League, Blitz League, something like that. Name will be in the title. What we're doing here is going to take a league of 5 matches, and we're going to condense them down, because I know that watching an hour and a half of footage is a lot for some people. Even though we have the match tags down in the description below, sometimes you're not able to watch it, and we are also seeing that most people just engage for about 15 or 20 minutes. So to make it more consumable, it's going to be sped up. It's going to be every piece of the content, but it's going to be played at 3-4 times speed, and we'll do this post commentary over top to kind of give a highlight and direction of what's going on if you would like to just listen as you are about your day. I appreciate all you watching. Please leave those comments and subscribe, and let's get to the matches. Red-White Lockout, you got a brief look at the list as we queue up for a game. You're going to see that we're the Rekindling Phoenix, Goblin Dark Dwellers, which is kind of a spicy include, and the Suppression Field Ghostly Prison style. So we're going to try to attack with those pieces, and we're going to try to Stone Rain our opponent out. Our opponent immediately leads off with a Stitcher. We're able to Mana Tithe, always get those Mana Tithes in for some good value. And immediately at this point, we're thinking they're probably Graveyard, pretty obvious, but maybe like a Vengevine list, probably not so much a Dredge list. So preventing them casting 2 creatures to get a Vengevine back would be a great way to approach this. My opponent does have the Gravecrawler and the Vengevine in, so we decide we're going to keep killing lands here to prevent maybe them casting 2 things at once. They decided that the Merfolk Secret Keeper was better to be milled, or use the mill effect, than the creature there to get the Vengevine out, which works out really well for us because we actually keep them off of casting 2 things for some time. My opponent decides to unearth the Fate Stitcher and doesn't do really anything with it, and I'm not sure if they thought this would trigger Vengevine or not, but maybe they're planning something else for that Vengevine at some point. Maybe they have a main deck way to get rid of Ghostly Prison, but at this point they basically triggered Prized Amalgam. It's a 3/3 instead of a 4/3, and they're attacking in. We're just going to keep killing lands until I can get Goblin Dark Dwellers into play so that we can prevent that attack, block, and also use some of our spells from the graveyard. They end up giving up after we kill a few things, and because they can go wide, and because we're also probably not going to get to Mana Tithe too many things, we go ahead and bring in some Rest in Peace, Wrath, Trinispheres, things like that. Have to mulligan twice here, not getting any lands, and then we get a little land heavy, and we're just going to have to go with the top of the deck here. Opponent leads with that Merfolk Secret Keeper, getting things into the graveyard, starting up what they are planning to do for this game. We don't have too much. We're at least getting some lands. I'm going to cycle the Flagstone here so my pillages are online. And we really need to avoid them playing 2 things out. Luckily for us, they just play a Bloodstained Mire and decide to go full-on mill everything into their bin here. By doing that, that actually gives us the opportunity to pillage, or the Stone Rain as we cast. We top deck the Rest in Peace, and we clear that game out. No problems there. I think our opponent maybe got a little bit greedy. Should have put some things into play game number 2. All right, match number 2 here. We have a Misty Rainforest. We've got a relatively stable hand here with kind of a little bit of everything that we do with this. We have our opponent on what appears to be blue-black, and we're just going to go ahead and start to tackle their lands as we do. Stone Raining, trying to get them off black here. And because I see the snow-covered island, I'm thinking Archmage's Charm is probably their counter of choice. So let's go ahead and get a Rekindling Phoenix down and see if we can't get this in, doing some damage, so on and so forth. Opponent decides to fetch a basic here, which gives us an opportunity to go after their Watery Grave here, trying to keep them off black. And I believe they go ahead and do counter this, but we do have the Pillage to follow this up. We're trying to prevent a Fatal Push clipping off this Elemental, because keeping the Elemental around would allow us to get our Phoenix. Unfortunately for us, our opponent does get the Sunken Hollow and does get to kill it, but hey, at this point we get to go ahead and just keep chopping away at lands as best as we can. And because we're doing this, they unfortunately have to use an Archmage Charm on a Crack the Earth, which isn't very good, versus something more pressing or drawing cards. Right there, you did see that they did a Shadow of Doubt, which is kind of crazy, but I do get to do the bust side. We weren't planning to search with the first flagstones, but we don't unfortunately get to search with the second. This doesn't matter too much here, though, because at this point we've kind of re-leveled the playing field, and we're going to see how we can maybe top deck some answers or do something here. Luckily, we get a few lands here and then get our Stone Rain type effect before my opponent even puts anything on the board. And then after we pick up a second Crack the Earth, we're in pretty good shape here against, say, a fetch land or other lands here coming into play, as you're seeing. So they try to protect there. We're just going to keep doing the needful here, blowing up lands, putting things in. And at this point with the Crack and the Mana Tithe, we've got this one pretty well situated here. We even get the suppression field to really lock things down. But my opponent decides to play it out for the next few turns just to see what else we might have. And we'll be going into game 2 here momentarily. The bust, blowing up everything, was really key. So we don't really know what else to bring in here. We're kind of just set for this list. One thing to note, we brought a Lightning Helix, the third one, in instead of a Boil. So the list had Boil as the original piece. I kind of like the idea of having the Helix because little creatures are going to wreck us. I'm unfortunate to run into that quite a bit. I don't see as much blue online. Caveat being this list, obviously. But hey, we're going to go ahead and give it a shot. We make very minimal changes. Boil would have been nice, but maybe we'll get lucky. So this hand has very little red, but we at least have the flagstones here. And going into turn 2 with my opponent having just one land here, it's pretty easy. Mana Tithe the Opt. Opponent's clearly digging for lands. And at this point, we're in great shape to just go ahead and take them off something. Unfortunately, we don't. They get to force, but we are a deck full of land destruction. And so we're in great shape here. We end up getting to Mana Tithe the Spell Snare that's blowing up our boom. And for whatever reason, our opponent kept a one-lander. Probably not a good idea against any Ponza or land destruction deck. We take match 2. Whew. Post-commentary is interesting. Match 3, here we go. So, got the Sacred Foundry into play. We see a Waterlogged Grove, and we immediately know what the deck is. We'll leave it up to you guys to figure out here in but a second. But if you've got it, good for you. We're going to go ahead and take this. Their deck should be Mana Light. Any ideas? Infect it is. So we've got Infect here. Our opponent actually is playing a Sylvan Scrying. I can't believe it, but okay. Occasionally, I suppose they do that. We're going to go ahead and keep tackling their lands here, though, as we do. And hopefully, with this, they're not going to be able to play a creature down, and we're going to hopefully stop the Infect. My opponent decides, well, we've got to begin combat here, and starts pummeling away at me. So to prevent Noble from pumping itself, we'll keep hitting the lands, as we do. Our opponent's done a Groundswell. They've done a Scale Up here, attacking us. We're down to 8. Luckily, at this point, I can Goblin Dark Dwellers, which gets me to play something, but also gives me a blocker. And this is where this is really key. Having that blocker there has just been very crucial at times. We're going to go ahead and block here. We're thinking of pump. They pump with a Blossoming, then a Mutagenic, and they keep their creature around. Really, at this point, we're just looking for some way to prevent Noble from attacking, whether it's a Phoenix, a Goblin Dark Dwellers, or a Ghostly Prison. We cycle a couple times, we hit the Ghostly Prison, we're in great shape. We have the Mana Tithe, we have a second Mana Tithe, and we have a Stone Rain. Our opponent should not be attacking anytime soon, and we're just looking for our finishing blow, which can be any of our creatures here, or Crack the Earth and just take them off of everything. We do top deck our Phoenix. Opponent's taking enough damage for us. We top deck a Goblin Dark Dwellers as well, which is great because I can cast the Crack to get rid of the Wooded Foothills. And at this point, we've taken down Infect. So we're really happy to have the Helixes here. The Trinisphere is also not too bad. I'm going to just take out a little smattering of different things here. We definitely want to take them off their lands. We want to remove their creatures. Pretty simple. I think I consider a suppression field because they have a lot of fetches. The activating Ink Moth, things like that are a problem. All right, so we look at this hand. This hand has some things that I like the Mana Tithe and the Crack the Earth, stuff like that. But when they lead with this Birds of Paradise, I'm a little worried about my Mana Tithe ever being useful. And then they followed up with a Spellskite, which is kind of an interesting little nuisance here because we can't target something with our Helix. So we're in a bit of a back foot here, needing our red mana and seeing what we can do here with maybe blowing things up, getting whatever going. Again, our opponent's got plenty of mana here, and they've got a good way to protect an Infect creature. Our opponents prioritize lands and protection here, unlike our previous opponent, which had 1 land. So we'll see how this spans for them here. We're trying to dodge something like a protection spell on the Spellskite after firing off this pillage, so we find this is probably the best chance that we have with a few more things, summoning Sick and having 1 Mana Tithe open, maybe protect from a Vines or something like that. At this point in the game, we're kind of like feeling decent, but I'm really worried about just a single Infect creature, specifically Blighted Agent. Just play that down. I try to Helix, they protect it. I can't really Mana Tithe because my opponent's apparently got a dozen mana here for a deck that doesn't usually play a lot. So that being said, let's go ahead and try to take a little bit of this off. It's not really any penalty to me with the flagstones. We're balancing between having enough red, white mana for all of our mana intensive spells here, and we'll see how it plays out. Unfortunately for us, they do get the Blighted Agent down. We're going to try to get them off a little bit more mana here before going after the Blighted Agent. I think we could possibly get rid of this, but it depends on what kind of protection spell they have. If they have something that pumps it or protects it, they're in great shape. So they have a Groundswell, pretty simple here. It just protects it with total life, the toughness, so that's really good. It wasn't like a Vines or something like that. Opponent scales up, mites up, and just swings in with also those noble triggers. Was there maybe a Crack the Earth kind of line there? I don't think so. The Noble Hierarch would be sacrificed. My opponent would keep enough mana around. Cracking the Earth wouldn't give me the Mana Tithe, so they protect the creature anyway. So we're in game number 3 here against Infect. We are at least on the play. The hand looks reasonable because I can protect, or I can Mana Tithe the very first threat, which we get to do, and I get the Suppression Field, preventing maybe fetching and getting that second land here for something like a Blighted Agent. So we're feeling fairly good here. Unfortunately, it is 2 non-fetch lands and a Blighted Agent with an Ink Moth. Lucky for us, our Ink Moth isn't going to probably attack us anytime soon with the Suppression Field. That being said, our Blighted Agent can definitely get in. So they get in for 6 with the scale up. Really just needing a land here. We probably should have considered cycling the cast out earlier, but we did have the Suppression Field, so it wasn't going to make much of a difference for us. We could have cycled the cast out over the Suppression Field on that turn 2. We opt to do this. We're leaving up something that looks like Helix. They can't really crack the Windswept Teeth. My opponent has a Dryad Harbor, which is really troublesome to us because they have the ability to just pump something or do anything here. They're able to Blossoming Defense. We just really got on the back foot. We needed to be ahead a few lands. Infect takes us down. Our removal didn't show up. We probably kept a little bit of a slower hand and probably should have mulliganed for something a little more punch. All right, match 4 here. I do remember this one from the league, so let me give you the recap here. We see a lot of things attack us here, game number 1, as you're seeing, and we have a land destruction spell. The Suppression Field doesn't matter because they don't play fetches. My opponent Lava Spikes and Burst Lightning, I believe. Either way, Kiln Fiend gets huge. They swing in, they kill us, no problem. Now, before anybody leaves a comment about how we sideboard here, yes, we bring in Helixes, Celestial Purge, Trinsphere, those are all great. We should have slammed in the Leyline of Sanctity as well. We didn't. We even thought about this a while back, and unfortunately for us, we have to mull a little bit into Oblivion here, keeping the Mana Tithe with an idea of maybe I can Mana Tithe a threat, which we get lucky and get to. But at this point, we're just getting bolted here. Manamorphose, they're getting to light up the stage twice here. One off their hand, one off themselves. And this is just starting to look really bad for us just because they've gotten so much value. And not to mention that they've got 4 lands here. So we're going to do some boom bust here. We have the Helix, but it's going to be painful for us, but maybe we can keep one of these from attacking. Not to mention we're already doing that with the Ghostly. We fire off now, which seems a bit early, but we're doing that now because the second spell here, plus the attack, could get really awkward. It doesn't really put us in a great spot because we're having to take so much damage off our Sunbaked Canyons. Our opponent's got enough lands to go ahead and attack through. We're just not in a good spot. We really should have brought in the ley line. We should have we should have done many things differently here. At this point, we could probably crack the earth just to get rid of the Sunbaked Canyon. We're trying to feign like a lightning Helix here. Opponent's not going to care. They're just going to bash in. Browse takes us down. Mental misstep there for sure. For sure. All right, match number 5, our final match here in our Blitz League, I suppose. It is what appears to be some sort of Titan list. We've got the Dryad. We've already got a castle in play as we've been speaking. So we go ahead and pick the castle off immediately. And our opponent seems to think they have perhaps castle mana, but then just slams Karn. And at this point, we're not looking too hot. We can keep playing our Molten Rains and Pillages, trying to just set some things off here. I'm a little bit worried about whatever they might play here off their Karn. After the Golos and having them get Liquid Metal, plus getting a Valakut here, we're just in a really bad spot. Luckily for us, even though Karn is preventing the Chromatic Star from being used, I can actually go ahead and use it with the Crack the Earth. And at this point, we Stone Rain the Valakut not to die immediately. We're really only getting a Pillage to maybe kill Golos, but then they go ahead and do their land destruction spells. And so we just kind of get, well, taken care of here. Because they have a lot of mana here, we're going to go ahead and drop our Mana Tides, bring in a few Wrath of Gods. I'm expecting the big guy, the Titan. But we are a land destruction deck. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. So main game plan, let's go. Blow up a land. Opponent's got a search here. Blow up a land. Opponent's search goes off here. They explore. They're doing their things. They've got the lands. They've got the arbor. They're back up to 4. On turn 4 after 2 land destruction spells. All good. We're going to just blow up a land. And that's what we're going to do. I believe at this point my opponent's kind of noted that I'm probably a lot of fun at parties. Goblin Dark Dwellers and another blow up a land spell there to finish that one off. We adjust the sideboard just a little bit since we're on the draw. Main game plan. That's the idea here. Luckily for us, we get a Mana Tithe here. Maybe we can snag something nasty. We're going to just do our normal game plan here. Blow up a land, go get a land from the flagstones. We got land destruction spells galore here. Blow the land up, play a land. Blow the land up, play a land. So we hesitate here because of the Ghost Quarter. We don't really care here. Just blow up lands, all that good stuff. Continue to do this. Just take them off of any color that they ever get here. So we're in a great spot, I think, here. I can land the Rekindling Phoenix. My opponent has a Cavern, which is kind of interesting. And they are able to deploy a threat. It happens to be the Dryad, which is excellent for them because they can have any and all colors. We do get to cycle here. We blow up a land. We're just going to continue to blow up things. We took care of the Cavern with the idea that maybe I'll get to Mana Tithe something. So we're doing all right. So we attack here. We have the option to Boom Bust or to Wrath. We decide to Wrath here with the idea our Elemental should come back with our Phoenix. And by removing the Dryad, maybe they won't have enough green to play Titan. And so we kind of get this nuance back and forth here with what we're supposed to do this turn. At this point, we just bust them to make the Tireless Tracker grow less. It doesn't mean we win the game, but our opponent does concede because I think they're pretty much frustrated with us at that point. We take down the final match there. I believe we went 3-2 overall. And there you have it. A Blitz League. Pretty fast commentary. We'll have a few recapping thoughts right after this. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Leaving a comment. Fast commentary. I don't know if it was very clear. You let me know. Did you like seeing the whole thing? You got to see every play. Some plays were very quick because it was sped up. Would you like it a little bit slower? Would you like it broken out? What do you think? Leave a comment, and we'll see you in the next videos. Take care, and have a wonderful weekend.